Hi, everyone. Thank you all for joining us, and welcome to Talking Chiefs and All Things NFL. We are broadcasting from the MKE Chiefs Cast live from the Wolf Den. I'm Chris Thomas.
And I'm Josh Kingsley. We are in the Week 10 bye week. Our next game is going to be against the Oakland Raiders, who, I guess they're from Las Vegas. I don't really take that
I
move
do that
seriously
all
at
the
this point.
time. Yeah.
But it's this Sunday, the 22nd. It's Sunday Night Football, and I'm not even going to apologize for that. As a reminder, all Southeast Wisconsin area resident Chiefs fans are invited to join us for game day. Visit mkechiefsfans.com for more information and location.
Today on the podcast, we'll be talking Chiefs, along with other league games in the AFC and NFC, and also fantasy football.
All right. This week's episode is going to be brought to you by Complete Weddings and Events, which is your leading provider of photo, video, DJ, photo booth, lighting, and coordination services. Also on here with us today is Brian Reynolds, who is our Andy Richter-esque producer / sound engineer.
It's an honor to be here.
We're honored to have you.
No.
Yes, we are.
My job is to not screw up. I'm doing my best.
We believe in you. So, jumping right into the Chiefs, this is a bye week, so we don't really have a game to review, but that doesn't necessarily mean that we can't talk about football. So let's jump right into our favorite Chiefs play call of this last week. And I'm going to go ahead and go first. After that Bills-Cardinals game, Patrick Mahomes jumped on Twitter and, said something about DeAndre Hopkins being a monster, which is true, 100% true. And he also got a quick response from DeAndre Hopkins saying, hey, man, you're a monster too. And I thought I had a ring until you turned on God mode, assuming that he's talking about the divisional round of the playoffs this last year when the Texans had, a 24-0 lead, something to that effect. And then the Chiefs turned around and did what they did. I think it's a bit of a stretch for Hopkins to think that he had a ring based on how they were playing. But I agree with him that Mahomes went into God mode. So DeAndre Hopkins has my Chiefs play call of the week.
Nice.
Any thoughts on that?
When I saw that graphic, I just if I was still on social media, I would have liked the hell out of that because it cracked me up. I mean, yeah, it's there was a lot of guff going on here. Also, if you followed social media, I heard about Bill O'Brien catching a lot of crap still for trading DeAndre Hopkins, even though he's been fired by the Texans. But
I mean, truthfully, for trading DeAndre Hopkins, if that makes it on his grave, I don't know that he's gotten enough crap for that move. That was probably one of the most horrible trades that I can think of. I can't think of anything in another sport that I would put above that.
I can't either off the top of my head. I mean, it's a second-round pick and David Johnson, who I don't think has done anything in about 4 years.
He had a good first week. He had a good first week.
He did. Yeah, my fantasy team benefited from that, but he's done nothing for me since. But
that's true. I mean, it's like that scene on Major League where they put in Roger Dorn to pinch hit because he's got several foul tips.
They tell him to lean into one.
Get in there, Dorn. Lean into one. All right, so let's get to the best play call of the week. For my money, the best play call for the Chiefs this last week was by Clark Hunt, who took his money and signed Veach and Reed to extensions. I mean, money in the bank. I think it was through 2025. I mean, we got our coach and our general manager. The only real complaint that I had about that is when the Chiefs media was reporting it, they put it out as two separate articles. I mean, what are we doing here? We both know that they're all tied together. So
no, they are.
What's your thoughts on best play call?
Well, for mine, it's more of like a potential play call. So I learned this earlier today, but the Chiefs are looking into a cornerback potentially. So this is a former first-round pick in 2019 who actually was put on the exemption list by Roger Goodell and then cut by the Giants because him and another player had turned themselves in, I guess. I don't remember if it was armed robbery or something of the like, but all charges were dropped as of today. So apparently DeAndre Baker is shopping himself around, and there's a first round talent, a young corner, which in my opinion, the Chiefs can't have enough corners because, we don't really have I would say a top end talent. So if you can get a guy with upside and add more depth to the secondary, by all means.
Yeah, I couldn't agree with that more. I was very excited to see that as well. And that was great in light of the other news that I know you and I were talking about earlier this week, where we have our entire tackle depth chart on the COVID list right now.
Yes.
That could be a total disaster.
It could be, and I was going to bring that up later on, but yeah, that's definitely something that's looming. I don't, to jump ahead a little bit, I don't think that's going to keep the Chiefs from winning, but it'll definitely keep the Chiefs from winning convincingly, I think.
Yeah, for sure. And to me, the thing that I think is best about the news is that it's saying it was quarantined by association, which is a 5-day in the NFL, which would mean that they just don't get a practice. But I kind of go back and forth if I want Mitchell Schwartz practicing at all.
No kidding with the back, yeah.
Yes, I mean he's definitely as much of a key to getting to where we want to go as anybody. So yeah, sorry to jump the gun a little bit on that for you.
That's all right.
So, who would you say was the X factor of the bye week?
Oh gosh, in the bye week, I mean, honestly, I hate to say it, but COVID-19. And so yeah, that's where I was going to go with is the fact that we may be without our starting left and right tackle, but that looks promising because Ben Roethlisberger was put on the list last week, but he cleared and he ended up playing on Sunday. I don't think either Eric Fisher or Mitchell Schwartz is going to need that much practice time anyway. So, I mean, if anything, you've got two of your most experienced guys on the roster. It's just, I think the only risk is if they can't play. But so long as they clear, I'm not concerned about them with the lack of practice time.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure Matthew Stafford had the same thing the week before as well. For me, I'm going to go with John Gruden as an X factor for the bye week. That whole victory lap around the parking lot at Arrowhead. I was watching Around the Horn earlier today, and Israel Gutierrez made the comment that maybe the bus driver couldn't figure out how to get out of the parking lot. I know from going to Arrowhead, that's a real possibility right there.
It can be very complicated. Yeah,
yeah, exactly. So who knows what that is? To me, it seems a little bit like the team and Andy Reid are trying to manufacture motivation, but as far as I'm concerned, the only thing that we need to manufacture more of than motivation for this game is Pfizer can make as many of these COVID vaccines as they want so we can get the hell out of this crap and move forward with all of our lives. Like Stan Marsh, I just want my life back.
Yes.
So what is your prediction for the upcoming game this Sunday against the Hater, Raider, whatever?
Yeah, so, I mean, let's assume Fisher and Schwartz are playing. I definitely have this a 2-score win for the Chiefs. I'd probably put it somewhere, and I'm going to give the Raiders a little bit of credit because I think their front seven did do some really good things, and I think they will give us some problems. But I think our defense is going to play a lot better in this game. So I'd probably put it around, I'd say 31-20 Chiefs.
We get one Snead back, right?
We do get Legarius back, yeah.
Yeah, that's that to me is a huge if we're going to talk for real about a potential X factor for the upcoming game, getting him back, he can keep up his interception a game path that he's been on.
Well, he's also athletic enough to keep up with Henry Ruggs potentially. That was one thing that.
And I would love to see Derek Carr go back to being Derek Carr.
Yes, I would too.
Which is a massive disappointment, except for the week he played the Chiefs.
Yep. Well, that was his Super Bowl there.
Yep, absolutely. So let's get into stats. So while we're still talking about things that happened during this bye week, even though we didn't have a game, there doesn't change the fact that stats and math and stuff like that happened. Any stats that jumped out to you that you just loved this week?
Not a whole lot. It's kind of tough when you don't have a game going on. I mean, there was definitely stats here and there, but I mean, the thing that always sticks out, and I know you're going to follow up on this, is just the whole fact that Patrick Mahomes just doesn't turn the football over. And, the only turnover he has this year, I believe, is some kind of junk interception against the Raiders. So it's pretty amazing how, this guy was drafted out of Texas Tech with the fear that he was going to come out here just throwing the ball with a lot and throwing picks like Jameis Winston, but he's been anything but. So I would just say the whole fact that, he's by far and away he's the best player in the NFL, and the whole fact that he doesn't give the football to the other team, given the style that he plays and as much as the Chiefs throw the football, is just amazing to me.
Yeah, he is MV Pat Trick, and I want to make sure to say that just in case for some odd reason that this does make it to Patrick Mahomes' mom, because I don't want her.
That's right.
I don't want to be on her bad side. I remember my grandmother telling me that she would, turn me over a checkered apron, and I don't want to get on the bad side of Patrick Mahomes' mom for calling him by the wrong name. So before I throw out my stat, there was one thing that you kind of got to that I've always thought was interesting. I would love to see a stat where a receiver that just makes a horrible play can be credited for an interception. I don't know if you watched Monday Night Football last night, but Kirk Cousins threw a ball that hit Adam Thielen in the stomach, and he bobbled it, and Khalil Mack got an interception. I'm like, that was a Thielen interception. Adam Thielen threw an interception.
It's like when we played the Patriots. Julian Edelman, ball goes right through his hands, and I think it ends up in Dan Sorensen's hands, and he just takes it back. Or Tyrann Mathieu, sorry.
Yeah.
The landlord taking it back thanks to Julian Edelman's stone hands there. But
Just to be clear, I hope that I'm not sounding like I was endorsing Kirk Cousins as having a good game last night, by the way, because he didn't. But no, so my favorite Chiefs stat of the week, and the reason it's my stat of the week is I heard this listening to Kevin Keatsman's podcast. So this is totally ripping off something that happened there, and this was from one of his local area Lenexa, Kansas readers that sent a thing in. And I agree with Kevin that this is the hands down best Patrick Mahomes stat that I've ever heard. And the lead up to it was that through 100 touchdown passes, which Mahomes here recently did, the number of interceptions that he had is a really insane number. And to put that in context, before I mention what that number is, let's talk about some other Hall of Fame / future Hall of Fame quarterbacks. So John Elway threw 100 touchdown passes. How many interceptions do you think he had?
Well, seeing John Elway's stats, especially before I think the early 90s, I would guess he'd have more interceptions than touchdowns.
It was close. He had 95.
That's John Elway.
Exactly. So next after this, I know this was solidly within our adult formative lifetime type of years. Peyton Manning is the next one that we'll get into. And I mean, another first ballot Hall of Famer that just hasn't gotten around to doing that yet. Through 100 touchdown passes, he was at 69 interceptions.
Wow.
So the other comparison for, I guess, kind of concern, if you will, when you're talking about Mahomes, the original gunslinger, Brett Favre, had 65. So then the next one, I'll see what your thought process on this one is. Drew Brees is next on the list. And
he started with the Chargers. I'm going to guess probably put him at 40.
He is at 63.
Really?
So we're not getting anywhere remotely close to that number yet. So the next one is Joe Montana, who a lot of people would put in the pantheon of quarterbacks.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I think anybody who's watched football puts him in the pantheon of quarterbacks. And
we did for a couple of years here
for
in Kansas
sure,
City,
yeah.
So yeah,
for sure. And I've heard arguments that he's the GOAT. And actually, these next two guys are probably, from my perspective, the two strongest arguments on the GOAT. Joe Montana was 54. Tom Brady was 53.
Yeah.
So now we're getting into some real just ball chuckers, and so we'll talk Dan Marino, which we'll have to get into this on a future episode. I consider Dan Marino not being drafted in 1983 by the Chiefs as one of the greatest football what-ifs in history. Just thinking about what kind of defenses we had, but we don't have the rest of the night to talk about that. But he threw 44. So we're getting into the gold standard of not turning the ball over. Aaron Rodgers through 100 had 34 interceptions, and
That's really good.
He's getting ready to cross off 400 with less than 80, or right around 80. So Rodgers is the guy that you're chasing. So
yeah.
Knowing all of those numbers and where that all ended up, what do you think Mahomes' interception number for his career is?
I mean, if I'm doing math in my head, it's got to be less than Rodgers. So about 25.
19. 19. So Patrick Mahomes' interception count can drink in Canada.
I mean, geez. I'm pretty sure Peyton Manning had more picks in his rookie year than Patrick Mahomes has in his career. I wouldn't be surprised. Yeah.
He did.
I remember, it's okay if I say, I remember watching the Raiders game with Tanya, my wife, Tanya, and when he threw a pick, I was like, that doesn't happen.
No.
I mean, it happens, but not to that guy. Since when does this start happening?
Exactly. It's like the whole thing of, it's okay to be wrong. I was wrong one time. I thought I got something incorrect, and turns out I didn't. That's the Mahomes interception, and it's just insane.
Well, I remember holding him to I remember I realized how high a standard I hold him to. Like it's not even it's not fair. It's like, but that's his own creation. I remember thinking that. I'm like, well, he did this, so exactly. I'm not used to seeing this happen. So it's your fault.
Exactly. Well, and then another stat that I was looking at right before we got on this, which this one just makes me laugh. I mean, this is kind of like the law of motion. You have the equal and opposite reaction. So the equal and opposite of Mahomes is what Drew Lock has done this year. Which, Chris, I apologize. I know you went to high school with this guy.
Yeah.
So
we both went to high school, Lee Summit. Yep, we did.
Yeah, but he's a Mizzou guy, so it's okay to make fun of him. So through the 9 games this year, when the Broncos are in 3 wideouts, which is pretty standard passing formation, right? Especially when you're getting, your skulls beat in and you're down the way the Broncos are. Here's what some of his stats look like. 16 interceptions, which is almost Mahomes' career. 16 interceptions, which is everything that team's done. He's gotten sacked 17 times. He's lost 3 fumbles. He's had an intentional grounding, which is the most shameful thing a quarterback can do as far as I'm concerned this side of the pick 6. But there are 2 defensive touchdowns. I believe one of those is a pick 6. And the Broncos have scored 10 touchdowns. Yeah. So, yeah, Drew Lock in 3 wide trailing, chucking the ball is a stat line of 10 touchdowns, 16 interceptions. So cheers to the Denver Broncos.
Sounds like John Elway is going to continue his quest to find a quarterback.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, Lock has one redeeming factor, by the way. He's a Chiefs fan.
Yeah.
True.
Exactly. So, Chris, this is one of the things that you wanted to talk about. A weekly old friend alert as we're getting ready to go around the rest of the league that actually did play football. So before we get into anything in the AFC and NFC, who is your old friend that you want to talk about for this weekend, and what's an old friend?
Well, an old friend to me is, it could be any well-known or obscure Chiefs player from the past. For me, I got to go with well-known because I'm still really touched by the fact that Alex Smith is playing football again. If you saw the documentary on what happened to his leg and what he had to go through, almost died, and the fact that he goes out there and has a career day in passing on Sunday with 390 yards. So, I'm really happy to see him doing well. It kind of makes me wonder why he wasn't playing ahead of Kyle Allen in the first place, but maybe that's just because they were worried about his leg. But it's great to see him playing well again.
Yeah, I agree with that. He was the first person I thought of as well. I love Alex Smith. I was a huge fan the whole time he was here. Mm-hmm. I know that we've sat on game day, and numerous of us have had the social media or just, live banner. As far as I'm concerned, Alex Smith is one of the 2 next guys that goes into the Ring of Honor at Arrowhead. He's the number 3 passing quarterback for the team. There's 2 ways that you can be in his position and have a guy come in and take your job. And you can either do what he did, or you can start making comments like Brett Favre did when Aaron Rodgers came in. It's not my job to get my successor ready. I mean, Alex Smith leaned into it. Just a true professional, seems like an all-around good guy, did a lot of great work in the community. Just love Alex Smith. My other potential, soon Ring of Honor. I think it's about time we get a punter in there. I'd love to see Colquitt.
Oh, that you could almost argue that he should be in the Hall of Fame. I think Ray Guy is still the only punter in the National Football League Hall of Fame, but I mean, he was better at pinning a team inside the 10-yard line than Dustin Colquitt.
I mean, Colquitt was the best player on the team for a number of years when the Chiefs were horrible in what we'll call the pre-PM era. It's like BC pre-PM.
Yeah, he's one of those rare punters that was actually worth a draft pick, because I remember when he got drafted, I yelled, I go, "You're drafting a punter?"
Yeah.
But yeah, 15 years later, you're like, that was a good pick.
Yeah, we drafted a punter. It was awesome.
Yeah. But yeah.
From the very beginning. It's like that. It's like that indie band that the hipsters like. It's like, well, I liked them before they were cool. I liked the Colquitt pick before it was cool. So I want to throw out one other old friend alert. A special shout out to Tyler Bray for getting into that Bears game last night. That did not go well at all. His stat line was 1 for 5 for 18 yards, which is good for a.
He actually completed a pass?
Yeah, he completed one. He completed one. God, what a rough game. The Bears are horrible. Yeah, I feel bad for Matt Nagy, but, when Eric Bieniemy finally gets his head coaching job, maybe we're going to get Matt Nagy back as a coordinator, and
it's possible
he can rebuild his brand, because he's sure as hell going to need it. He's just not done well.
It's almost like a death wish trying to revive the Chicago Bears offense. I mean, you think about their most successful offense was probably 1985?
Yeah.
So, yeah. I mean,
yeah. Because they didn't screw it up for that defense, and that's literally what we're going with.
Yeah,
I was actually trading messages with a guy from Chicago that I know right before we got on this, and his comment was that Bears quarterbacks spend more time on their back than a $5 fill in the blank, if you will. We haven't decided if this is going to be a family podcast or not, so I'll leave that joke somewhat unfinished. But just bad. It
was, yeah. I mean, luckily Nick Foles isn't hurt as bad as it looked last night, because he got straight up thrown like directly onto his hip.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, it did not look good, but yeah.
I mean, I'd want to go back in if I was Foles.
Why would you? Gosh, that was a brutal game to watch last night.
Yeah. All right, so let's get into some AFC. What games did you notice this weekend from an AFC standpoint?
Yeah, I mean, I was really interested in the Steeler-Bengal game. Unfortunately, that was completely uninteresting. But, as far as other games go, I don't understand. I don't know what to make of the Cleveland Browns, because, they're hanging around there at 6-3. They win a game 10-7 against the Texans, and strangely enough, the Browns might be one of those teams that we face in the playoffs. They seem to have a pretty good formula with Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt, old friend alert, and not putting Baker Mayfield in a situation to screw it up. So I was actually that was the one that really caught my eye, even though it was very low scoring. I mean, the Browns continue to pile up wins somehow, some way.
Yeah, I would say that had my eye on that Steelers game. I kind of knew better than to expect anything. Death taxes and the Bengals getting their heads beat in, playing the Steelers, I think are three pretty, common things you can count on. That Cleveland game, I think it would be an interesting playoff game. And on paper, I would be scared of a team that would, run the ball like that. But they'd also have to try and keep up with Patrick Mahomes, and Baker Mayfield's going to have to make a play, and he's not going to. There's not really much else to say about that. The best play Baker Mayfield's made was getting on all these Progressive commercials, which is just hilarious considering how not a factor he is in the league. I did think that the Colts looked pretty tough this last weekend. Phillip Rivers throwing for 300 yards is a winning formula for them.
No kidding. No, I haven't seen that from him in 3 or 4 years, it feels like.
Yeah, the other thing you haven't seen in a couple of years is T.Y. Hilton looking like T.Y. Hilton, and he kind of did for a little bit. The Broncos game was something that I noticed. They did not look good. The team is horrible, and I love it, and that's really all the more airtime they're going to get here. But the AFC game of the week / NFC game of the week, because we're getting into that next, for my money, was the Bills Cardinals game. I was watching that one along with the Rams game as well, and
I caught quite a bit of the Rams game.
Yeah, so I was flipping back and forth between those two, and the Rams game was just more interesting until it wasn't. And that Bills game, I mean, it kept seeming to me like the Bills kept trying to give the game away. They kept threatening to get into it. They murdered every single drive they had with penalties. And every time I watch a game that's just full of the drive-killing penalties like they have, I just remember playing high school football, and I'm like, did you guys not run enough laps when you were in high school? What the heck is the problem here? And it drove me almost as nuts as watching NBA players not make free throws. I know that Brian was a pretty high-up varsity high school basketball player, and I was on the wrestling team because I was so good at basketball. And I remember running laps and watching these guys, and they would line up on the baseline, and somebody would shoot a free throw, and if they missed it, they all had to run a gasser. And I'm like, did none of you guys ever have to do that before you made it to the NBA? Because it just seems like not getting penalties in football and making free throws in basketball are kind of a prerequisite to be a pro at anything. But anyway, but yeah, that the end of that Bills Cardinals game, I mean, that was classic. Your heart out Kentucky Derby. That was the fastest 1 minute in sports.
I mean, you had two incredible touchdowns there in the last 30 seconds. I mean, the throw that Josh Allen made was pretty incredible.
Oh, yeah.
But then, I mean, what Kyler Murray did on the last play of the game to DeAndre Hopkins, I mean, wow.
Well, what DeAndre Hopkins did.
Yeah.
I mean, that ball was
and also the fact
it's crazy.
Well, the fact that Kyler Murray is like scrambling to his left and he's able to chuck the ball that far in the air to get it into the end zone. I mean, that's somewhat Mahomes-esque. I think Patrick could probably throw that out of the end zone, but still, I mean, that's not an easy throw.
Well, more than anything, I mean, he had the wherewithal to get the ball to DeAndre Hopkins and allow his guy to make a play. And if you're trying to figure out a way to give somebody every chance in the world to make a play, I mean, that made sense the way he did it.
Yeah, no, he's I think Kyler Murray is really starting to ascend right now, and that's he's a very exciting player. I guess one thing that I don't know if I think they said this on Monday Night Football last night, but I heard this actually on 810. He's the first quarterback since 1956 to have a rushing touchdown in 5 straight games.
Wow.
And I honestly could not tell you who the quarterback was back in 1956. I just know that he played for the Giants.
Wow.
But,
okay.
But not a household name. But Kyler Murray's really turning it up.
Yeah, that's he is. So do you think that Kyler Murray's a legitimate threat for MVP votes?
Probably not this year. I think he's statistic wise you do have to think about that. Maybe he's starting to creep up into the top 5, I think you still have Mahomes, you have Rodgers, you have Wilson. Um, after that, it's kind of a bit jumbled. But if he keeps doing what he's doing, I think he'll be in the conversation, but I don't think he's going to be a serious contender. I think it's probably going to be Mahomes, Rodgers, or Wilson.
Okay, fair enough. Well, let's get into Wilson next.
Yeah.
He's been the guy who seemed to be the media darling for MVP. After the game this last weekend, does he deserve to be that high?
No, he turns the ball over too many times, and the most damning thing for him in that game against the Rams is that he hadn't even targeted DK Metcalf until the fourth quarter. I mean, DK Metcalf is probably the most freakish wide receiver we've seen since Megatron. And why you don't at least challenge, I don't care if it's Jalen Ramsey or Deion Sanders. I mean, I was a bit surprised by how timid he was to challenge Jalen Ramsey in that game, where I think Patrick would go after Jalen Ramsey. I mean, he's gone after Stephon Gilmore, despite whoever he's guarding. So to me, that kind of diminished the shine on Russell Wilson for me.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. I couldn't agree more. So floating around the NFC a little bit more, is this possible? And I'm saying this as much of a straight face as I possibly can. Is it possible that the New York Football Giants win the NFC East, Least, whatever you want to call it?
Yes, because even if the Jets were in that division, they would have a chance. I mean,
Sure.
that's just how bad that division is.
It's horrible and it's hilarious. I mean,
It really is.
it really is.
Even if I don't think any team wants to win that division. I mean, even the Cowboys still have a chance, and they hadn't had Dak in over a month. So I mean, it's crazy.
So let's look at the end of the Giants' schedule. So they're at Cincinnati, at Seattle. They host Arizona and Cleveland. They're at Baltimore, and then they host Dallas.
That's a
So
tough schedule.
3 wins right now. I mean, that seems like 3-3 is possible.
It could be, yeah. I think Cleveland and Baltimore will be tough.
I agree.
And was it Arizona?
Arizona, yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, and then you could potentially win the other 3. Yeah, it's possible for sure.
Yeah. So, well, I mean, at Seattle, I think is going to be a tough one. The ones that I have circled, I see him beating Cincinnati and beating Dallas. And I think that there would be nothing more hilarious than the end of the week where the Sunday night football game is 2 5-win teams, Dallas and the Giants playing for the division. And I'm not going to lie, I kind of have this I want to watch the world burn mentality where we're going to have a 6-win team and everybody's going to want to rewrite all the rules because that's what we do. But yeah, that would be hilarious to me.
Well, you know what the contingency plan is. There's a contingency too that I guess there might be an 8th playoff team added in each side. So I mean, just keep opening the floodgates more for some of these, I guess, below average teams to make the playoffs.
Yeah, for sure. So if they added when are they going to decide on that? I don't understand how this is still a theoretical
I don't
thing.
know.
We're over halfway through the season. What are we doing?
I have no idea. I just know that it's a possibility, but I don't know what the actual rhetoric is for it to happen.
So let's just play a fun little what if game here. So looking at the way this goes. So if they added 8 teams, that would mean that the 4 and the 5 would play each other. Clearly, the NFC East is going to be the 4 seed. So if the season ended today and the Giants, Eagles, Cowboys, or Washington football team they all have an opportunity to accidentally make it into the playoffs, they would be hosting the Tampa Bay Buccaneers in a first-round game. So think about if that team decides to have a bad week, which they've had some bad weeks.
Oh, yeah. I mean, Jekyll and Hyde. I mean, that's the Bucs for you.
Yeah. Fire. Just dumpster fire. Yeah. Okay. Well,
Is it bad that whenever you say like the Bucks, talking about the Buccaneers schedule, all I can think about is Bill Belichick eating a Subway sandwich in a commercial in a bench right now?
Yeah.
Right. Is he a sandwich salesman now? Like, what's going on?
Him and Deion Sanders.
Oh yeah, and the Watt brothers.
Yeah.
Well,
Well,
Subway makes a great sandwich.
Yeah,
the menu's been the same every day, TJ.
right. Like yes.
Yeah. So I guess this week the Bucks are good again, probably. I don't know.
Yeah, we'll see what happens next week.
So
I don't know. But,
let's jump into fantasy football before we wrap this up. So let's look at a boom, bust, and most okayest player from a fantasy standpoint. Who is your boom for the week?
well, he's kind of been my boom for for a lot of the year. Actually, has been DeAndre Swift. He's a guy I kind of see him like Nick Chubb, because Nick Chubb actually was at one point the highest rated running back coming out in his draft, but he got drafted, I can't remember, second or third round by the Browns, and now Nick Chubb is one of the best backs in the NFL. And the same things with DeAndre Swift, and he had himself quite a day on Sunday, both catching and rushing. So he's proving himself to be kind of that, McCaffrey, Barkley type of player that can get you points by more than just with rushing yards.
Yeah. Okay. For me, it's Nyheim Hines. You never really know what's going to come out of that Colts backfield or really what that team's going to do, but he doubled his projection. So getting in the bus next, I'm going to go ahead and kick this one off with one that just personally screwed me this whole weekend. DJ Dallas, what the hell? He was supposed to be the starter in Seattle, and he lost his job to Alex Collins, who was on the practice squad until the day before. And I'm going to throw a little special runner up to me that this is another just personally drawing from my experience. I spent half an hour debating whether to play Will Fuller or DJ Chark, and neither one of them could cross 8 points in a PPR league, which is just a disaster. And Marvin Jones went out and put up 21, and of course he was conveniently located on my bench. But who's your bust?
Well, for me, this is kind of the way I think about it. I'm in an auction league, so actually receptions are a big part of the points in that. And really, it's a season-long bust has been Jarvis Landry for me. And I think he only had 3 catches this past Sunday, but given the fact that the Browns are now turned into whatever, the 85 Bears, they don't throw the ball anymore. And I thought Jarvis Landry would give me maybe 5-7 catches a week, and I don't know if he's done that in any given game.
Yeah. I agree with you, and this is coming from somebody who drafted Odell Beckham. So then we got one more category, most okayest player of the week. So who is your okayest player, and what's your criteria?
Oh gosh, my criteria is, I'm in another league that's very touchdown based. So for me, the most okayest player was Derrick Henry.
Yeah.
Because Derrick Henry had a 100-yard game, but he didn't score. So for me, that's a very okay score. It only amounts to 5 points. So Derrick Henry didn't really help me out this week, even though by a lot of standards, he had a very good game.
Yeah. My most okayest player was Golden Tate. He was projected and scored 5.5 points, and he had to publicly walk his comments back about needing to be more involved in that offense, which.
Yeah, that's what's holding the Giants back, obviously.
Yep,
Golden Tate not getting the ball.
Clearly been the problem.
Hey, Josh, can I ask one question? Can I ask one more question?
Yeah.
Okay. Odds that Butker misses PAT this game. Yes or no?
Gosh.
Think it's gonna happen?
I think he's going to be focused up, so I'm going to put it at a 25% chance.
Okay, all right. I
Yeah.
got better than average going on. I'm at 65% chance myself.
Yeah.
It's a coin flip for me. I just don't know what we're going to get out of him. But
guy
you
drills-
think with the extra bye week that Dave Tobe's really got him working on his PATs. I don't know.
I really hope that they're sitting him down and saying something to the effect of, dude, do you want to go to the Hall of Fame or not?
Yeah.
Because if you do, you've got good 55-plus yard numbers, and you're going to score a ton of points backing this offense up. But don't make us draft a kicker because we can't trust you to kick 35-yard extra points. Just there's nothing more real to say about it. Going back to Major League, I think about when they're trying to tell Rube Baker how to throw the ball to second base, and it was just like, Rube, are you good at anything else? Like, if I need my car fixed, could you do it? And he's just like, no, coach, I've only been able to play baseball. He's like, cool. Well, if you throw the ball anywhere but second base ever again, I will cut you so fast it'll make your head spin. I don't remember what it all was, but it was something to that effect. And lo and behold, he figured it out. That's how they need to talk to Bucker, in my opinion.
Well, you know how he figured it out, though, is because he was reciting the Victoria's Secret catalog as he was throwing the ball back to the pitcher.
I believe it was Playboy.
Well, Playboy
was
quit
Playboy.
working, so he started reading the Victoria's Secret catalog.
That's right. Yeah, that's right.
Yep.
Yeah.
So
All right.
we've all seen good 90s baseball movies.
Yes.
A lot of 90s references, and I'm all about that.
Yep.
Yeah,
right,
I
so
think outside of Mr. Belvedere, that was my introduction to Bob Uecker. So,
There you go. There you go. So I think we have a couple more things to cover. Now, this is a Brian special category. Chris, who was your player this week that played well enough to earn an XFL assignment?
Ooh. Gosh.
So I'm going to jump in here. I'm going to go with Devin Singletary from the Bills. 4 carries for -5 yards. Come on, man.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't want to say Tyler Bray because I think that wouldn't even fly in the XFL. I mean, that is a great question here.
Maybe we just say the Bears offense and call it a day.
Probably so.
The answer is the Jets.
The answer is the Jets.
It's always the Jets. Yeah.
All right. So the last thing that I think we need to kind of talk through, if this week was a song, what would the song be?
Okay. So for me, this is piggybacking the whole driving the bus around Arrowhead is pretty much crisscrosses. I miss the bus. Hoping this Sunday they're going to end up missing the bus and not be taking any victory laps.
Yes, if I'm not mistaken, that was the second single from the Totally Crossed Out album.
Still got the cassette tape.
Yep. That's awesome. So for me, it's I can't get no satisfaction by the Rolling Stones. I picked this for 2 reasons. One, I think the team's going to be really prepared and not satisfied with this 8-1 record, and there's got to be some Raider hater humiliation that goes on, and I'm looking forward to it. But the other reason I bring that up is we're clearly building a dynasty. We're in this for the long haul. We've got Veach and Reed signed, and the Rolling Stones, as far as I'm concerned, are the longest running band that still exists. If you Google it, it'll tell you that Gold Earring and the Beach Boys have been around longer, but I mean, Brian Wilson's not with the Beach Boys anymore, and I think Gold Earrings turned most of their lineup. But Mick Jagger and Keith Richards are the guys that have been there forever. So the Rolling Stones are the rock and roll band. They're the band, and we can't get no satisfaction. I did have one parting shot before we get out of here, and I just want to talk MLS for a moment. SKC, under the incredible helm of Peter Vermees, secure the #1 seed in the West, and they're set to host the San Jose Quakes on Sunday. Nice. I'll be rooting them on. I'm hoping that they're joking on the ESPN site that this game isn't on anywhere. I think it's on Fox Sports, and they're being petty like they normally do. But looking forward to sporting KC this weekend and to hopefully hoist the MLS Cup. What's your parting shot?
Kansas Jayhawks football team. Please don't lose by 50 to Texas this weekend. So that's my parting shot, I guess. But no, I don't know. Yeah, I mean, just in terms of the Kansas football program itself, for me, it's kind of a wash. I know that's kind of a cop out to say this year, but I think if there's a program that could have benefited from an actual spring practice and routine off season, it would have been Kansas, given the fact that they do have talent on this on the roster. It's just it's so inexperienced. So I'm hoping my parting shot is don't give up on Les Miles. I think you need to see this through another year at least, and I think next year is going to be the year that we'll start to see a turnaround with the Kansas football program.
Outstanding. Well, I know that all three of us would welcome that with open arms.
Yeah.
We haven't been good since Mangino, and we'll just sneak this in here real quick and kind of keep driving. I'm sure you saw that Greg Marshall left Wichita State under pretty much the same thing as Mangino. It's just apparently you don't get to talk to people that way anymore. So anyway, well, that all of our Chiefs fans from Milwaukee is going to be our sign off. So thank you for turning into the MK Chiefs Cast live from the Wolf Den. Once again, I'm Josh.
I'm Chris.
And Chris is with me. And thanks again to our presenting sponsor, Complete Weddings and Events. And we will see you next week. Go Chiefs.
Chiefs.